Welcome to Mama Talk Talks A Different Take, a podcast where everyday people around the globe share a different take on everyday issues. I'm your host, Ebi Mambo, and I'm pleased you're joining us today. Welcome. I'm your host, Ebi Mambo, and my guest on the show today is Sam Neo, who is an educator in math and science in Singapore. Today, Sam and I will be talking about the role of parents in education and the role of science and technology in a post-COVID evolved world. Stay tuned and leave your comments in the bottom and subscribe to continue receiving our content. Enjoy. Hi, Sam. Welcome to Mama Talk Talks A Different Take.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Sam. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me tonight. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine. It's just that was having a lot of online lesson. Now, because the circuit breaker has been lifted, so now some of my students I have to do face-to-face, but some are still online. So yeah, just as busy as before.
So you're keeping very, very busy with circuit breaker. Oh, yeah. It's been an interesting last few months with the pandemic and with the whole school closings and everything, and we'll get into that a little bit. But before we go any further, I want to ask you to please introduce yourself to Mama Talk Talks audience.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sam, and I'm from Singapore. Well, I've been a full-time tutor, particularly in science and maths, for secondary, or in the US they call high school, and JC, college students, for more than 5 years now. And personally, I have a master's degree in physics from the National University of Singapore. And that's about what I'm doing now. And we can talk about anything else. Okay.
Thank you, Sam. You have a background in science and math, what you said.
Right.
And as soon as I heard that, I wanted to scurry for the hills because I was horrible at math as a kid.
Many people are.
Yeah, I have tremendous respect for people who love math, understand it, because I don't. So for everybody who's watching, I met Sam because, as you all know, I live in Singapore, and I was looking for a tutor to help my son with his math and science skills, and so that's how we found Sam. And one of the reasons why I asked Sam to come on the show is because I have seen in him someone who absolutely loves what they do and goes above and beyond the 2 hours or 3 hours a week that he spends with my son. And he'll send Sam, I remember when we had was it a meteor? What was it?
Sure.
And I remember
it was a meteor.
Yes. Yeah. And you captured that, and then you sent it to me to show Bailey because he loves that stuff. Yes. And then we had the eclipse. Was it the eclipse?
No, the other one was the plane, landing, in the storm. So
Yes, there was the plane, but there was I forget what it's called, when the sun and the moon and
eclipse. I'm not quite sure I sent them. I might have, because I sent quite a few to my students, so I might have. Yes.
So I asked you to come on the show because I think that for me, at least, the pandemic exposed something that a lot of us have known for a long time in America and other parts of the world, but never really maybe talked about it in the way that we did during the pandemic, which is, are we really giving teachers the credit that they deserve? Because when I talk to a lot of my friends and colleagues who now had to be home with their children, the comment that everybody kept making was, how do teachers do this every day with 18, 20, 25 students? And these are my kids, and this is really hard. So this is a form of teacher appreciation, Sam, but also just I wanted you to come on here and talk to us about what teaching means to you, why you chose teaching, and why after all these years you continue to teach. So in terms of your background, how did you get into teaching?
Oh, just before that, you mentioned about the COVID. I remember I sent a video of the virus, COVID virus, to Bailey, and he was very interested in it. So I thought, it wasn't a cartoon form, but it really sends a message to it, to, the idea of how virus attack people, how our body responds to virus. So it's in a very fun way of teaching science. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, talking about my background, actually I have been teaching, for quite a number of years in both secondary schools as well as the polytechnics and even at the National University of Singapore, and primarily in maths and in science. Yeah. So yes, so I find that it's important to teach the young in these two areas of maths and science, because maths and science are very important in terms of the advancements of the country, in terms of economic development, in terms of also science and technology, because to really advance, in terms of economics and technology, the basic foundation of the students must be there. If they are not grounded in science and technology, the country will not have the manpower to take on the jobs. So that's why it's a very important task. And the point is that the way science and maths are being taught in schools sometimes it's a bit disappointing, because the teachers do not motivate and encourage the students to have an interest in the subject. They do it like it's just to pass the exam, I need to get a certificate. And that's the thing that really kills the interest. So this is
Yeah.
what I hope that by personally encouraging my students and getting them to appreciate maths and science, then they can see that this is an endeavor that they have hopefully grow interest in, because it's only if they grow interest in something then they can do well. If they do it just for the sake of passing exam, they're not going to like it, so it's become a chore. So that's my
Yeah.
philosophy.
I growing up, I absolutely loved literature and I loved history and I
Mm,
loved languages.
mm,
And I was okay with biology and geography.
okay.
But there was something about math and science that I found intimidating. In
Mm,
all your years of teaching,
mm.
I'm sure you've encountered this same kind of sense from some of your students. What do you think creates this barrier for some students between them and math and science?
Yeah, at this point, maybe I would like to say that actually, the learning of science is quite different from the what do you call this, the humanities, in the sense that science is both know-how, knowledge and know-how. So yes, you may have the knowledge, but science and maths involves a lot of know-how. For example, you must know how to solve simultaneous equation. There's a lot of skill they need to acquire for maths, for physics, for chemistry, for biology. It's not just the accumulation of knowledge. So the point about knowledge is not issue. It's the know-how that a lot of students have problems. So they get intimidated
Yeah.
because they don't know how to calculate many things, So this is the difficult part. So this is where I help, and that's where later on I'll show you my methodology of how to help students acquire the problem-solving skill so that they acquire the know-how. The knowledge part they can read, no problem. It's the know-how which is the difficult part.
So the application of skills that's tricky. I mean,
Yeah, the acquiring of skill.
yeah. One of the things I always tell Bailey when we do his homework
Mm.
is your answer is not as important as the method you use to get there.
Yes, the working.
Yeah, yeah. And I found that to be the hardest part because with math and science, I just like to get to the end. I just like to solve the
Yeah,
problem
yeah.
and get out of there. But again, going back to your background, Sam, we know that Singapore has some of the highest levels of education in the world.
Yeah,
We know
correct.
that you talked about the importance of math and science in
Mm,
building manpower. What is it that really sets Singapore apart when it
mm,
comes to learning?
mm,
Because I've seen, being here as an expert,
mm.
I've seen that there is a lot more emphasis on education and some real rigor and discipline and intensity. So
Yeah,
what is behind that in your experience growing up here and now
yeah.
as someone who's taught for decades?
Right. What happened is for Singapore, right? I have observed compared to the, let's say, the American system and as well as other system elsewhere, is that or perhaps I would say not just Singapore, the Asian system, yeah, they are very systematic. there's a lot of wiggle. Whereas the Western educations tend to be more liberal, you know. So for young children, system is very important. You need a routine because young children, they are not so experienced with how to do a self-directed learning. So you need to guide them. You need to have a syllabus. You need to have a system. For example, for all my students, including Bailing, I have a particular system. So when I go there, they know what I'm expecting them to see. They have to show me their homework which I gave them last week. And then after that, I'll review their homework. And all these things are done in accordance to a certain syllabus, which usually is in accordance with what they are learning in school. So I make sure that what I do with them and what the school is doing with them, they are in sync, so that the students don't get overwhelmed, because there's no point teaching them something which is not in line with school. So I have a system. The system allows me and the student to know what to expect every lesson. So they don't get stressed out, you see. So they automatically, even Berlin, they will know they have to do their homework. Now the problem is a lot of school students, right? The teachers are having difficulty even convincing the students to do their homework. So you must tell them what's the purpose of doing the homework, is to make sure they understand the lesson part. So that's my system. So I have a system, homework, we review, we go to the next lesson. And after that, we finish homework. I will assign the next homework. So the thing is that we have to keep the lessons short, not too long. Especially young children, you cannot keep them for too long. They don't have the attention span. So, and I have to make the topic interesting, because if not, it becomes too boring, right? The student switches off. So very often I have to tell them how whatever they learn is related to practical, reality, how is it useful. For example, I will tell Billy about astronomy, and cosmology, how did the universe, started, and how did the universe start, and so on. So these arouse their interest. Then they can see, if I learn this, how is it applicable to me?
Yeah, this is how the dots connect. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So, and always try. In addition to the system, I always try to tell them that what they're learning is not just to pass exam. What they're learning is for a skill to help them, so that they can be better prepared for life. For example, if you learn about physics, for example, then next time you will know how to understand your car better, right? If you drive a car, right? Or your TV goes wrong, something goes wrong, at least you know what's happening, yeah? But if not, then you are at the mercy of the mechanics, for example. So, So I always tell my students, you're not studying. You see, the sad thing in Singapore, right? A lot of students, after the exam, you know what I say? I returned everything to my teacher, What did you learn last year? Oh, I've forgotten,
I forgot,
It's very sad, right? You have spent so much energy, so much time, so much effort, and so much money just to learn something and to forget. No, I say learning is for life. It is an asset that you're going to be useful to you in future. So that's the message I always tell my students.
Okay, if I can play that back, the message is really about taking the theory, understanding the theory, but perhaps more important is its application in everyday life.
Yes.
And for children, for students, connecting those dots. And I can relate to that because I think I learned a lot of theory in school. And so the practical application didn't make sense to me. But now, especially during the pandemic and in the last week that he's been home, Balin is constantly doing experiments, he's building things, and things are exploding, and I'm like, what's happening here? But he's walking me through what he's learned from you and what he's learned from his classroom, and it's something that it's amazing. But I didn't really ever do that, partly because I wasn't interested in it, but also because I never quite understood the connection between the theory and the practical application. So Sam, now one of the things that I've been really interested in, especially from a teacher's perspective, is what is the role of the parent? It's clear what the teacher does and what the student does, right? What is the role of the parent, and what are some of the things that you see parents do well, and what do they don't do as well, or should do better?
Well, I tell you, parents is a very important role. Personally, myself, my 3 children, my 3 daughters, they are all grown up now. One's a doctor, one's a lawyer, one's a computer software engineer. Now, I play a huge role in guiding them to parents have a very important role. Because you see, teachers have one, it's one teacher to maybe 20 students. So it's very hard to have the one-to-one attention. So as a parent, you must be aware of what your children, your child is going through in school, at least how is he performing. And the parents must be in touch with the teachers, because the teachers is going to give feedback. And you play a supporting role to the teacher to encourage students, where the students have maybe attitude problem or some learning problem, then that's where the parents will come in to support. And also give guidance, like for example, I talk a lot to my children, when they were young, about what they want to be in the future. You see, even at a young age, if you talk to them, it will impress on them, and they will start thinking about it. They may not tell you, but they actually take what you say into consideration in future when they make decisions. So it's very important when they're young to talk to them. Hey, what do you think you want to be? How about this? How about that? And they may disagree with you, But years later, they tell you, actually, I agree with you, But I just want you to know that I agree with you. So yeah, so parents play, I cannot overemphasize the role of parents, okay? Because look, you are their partner in their journey to school, because going to school is quite scary. Sometimes you go to school, you meet, you don't have good friends, and you meet bullies. It's a terrifying thing, and especially that they cannot get along well with the teachers. Some students have problems with the teachers. So you as a parent, you have to support and try to help them through, and make sure they have a certain routine, both in school and at home. Then life becomes smooth, because I can tell you, a lot of students go to school on an empty stomach. So if they go to school and they are hungry, they don't even take breakfast, how can you expect them to be able to concentrate? So these are little hygiene things, like making sure they, they have proper meals, they sleep early. Some students don't enough sleep, they spend all time on handphone, and they just have barely enough sleep. The next morning they wake up, and when in school they are sleepy. So these are where the parents come in. You must make sure that your child is prepared for school. Mentally, physically, So it's the role of a parent is not easy, but it's very important. Yeah. Okay.
That is amazing, because what you said about on face value, if you say get your child ready or prepared for school, it's very easy to think, make sure in the morning they've taken a shower, they've had breakfast, their backpack is packed, and they're going.
Yeah.
But you're talking about different levels. You're saying that's some of it, but actually, did they go to bed on time last night? Did they actually sleep well last night?
Yeah.
Do they have some things that are bothering them on an emotional level that you're not engaging with them on? Do you know if they're bullies at school? Do you know?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's a full-on holistic kind of engagement with your child on emotional, physical, and every other level. I have found, and sometimes I'm quite guilty of this myself, I've found that sometimes there's so many demands on parents, right? And then we get trapped in this cycle of busyness. We're so busy, and it's usually with work, and then we find that things start to slip. So when you see, how do you see that manifest itself? So what is the difference between a child or let me ask it this way: when you see a child whose parents are engaged and a child whose parents are not engaged, can you tell the difference, and what does that difference look like?
Yes, you can. Usually those child whose parents are very involved, they tend to be more confident. They tend to have less antisocial behavior. Whereas those children who are neglected, some of them are very shy, lack confidence, and some of them is the other extreme. They become very antisocial. They have all kind of behavioral problem. And the thing about Singapore is that I think there's one thing which is not very good in Singapore is a lot of families are running on 2 income and both parents are working. And the kids are looked after by the domestic helper. Singapore has, almost every household has a domestic helper to help bring up the children. So it's quite sad. And so for me, I really think parents must make sure they spend certain time with their children every day. When they come back home, make sure you come back at least certain time and talk to. Depending on how many children you have more. You make sure you spend equal time with all of them, because You know, and if you don't, you know, and our parents, they come home late. By the time they come home, the children is asleep. The next morning, they wake up, the children have gone to school. So how much interaction do you have only on weekends? So whatever time you have, weekend, weekday, you must spend some time with them, because, like I say, it's a scary thing to go to school, you know, and they have problems, and when they're older, they may have other problems, you know, with friends and so on. So yeah, parents are playing a very important role, and you must make the effort, you must make time. Just as spouse, between them, they also have to make time. Otherwise, they, you know, you can get all kind of problems. So same thing with children. They are growing up, they have all kinds of needs, physical, mental, emotional, yeah. And on top of that, the school. And
Yes.
in Singapore, the school systems are very pressurizing, because every child wants to do well and all that. So it's stressful. Yeah. So a lot of the children in Singapore, students, are having tutors. So like, you know, my daughters, they wanted to ask me, says, "Dad, can I have tuition?" Then I asked them, "Do you need tuition?" They said, "Actually, I don't need." I said, "If you don't need, then why are you asking for tuition?" He said, "Because my friends have tuition." It's a
Yeah.
peer pressure, you know. I said,
Yeah.
"Well, you know, if you don't need a tuition, then why, you know?" So yeah, so
Yeah. It's such a tricky world, because
mm,
this afternoon, actually, Billy and I were supposed to go to the Apple store,
mm,
because for the longest time I've been resisting buying him a phone,
mm,
because the way I grew up, a
mm.
$500 phone for a child,
Yeah, yeah, correct.
unacceptable. There's just something about that that to me is not right. And the whole idea that, they should earn things is really important. So we had that conversation. I called the store, and they didn't have any stock. And I asked them to go upstairs and bring my old iPhones. And
Mm,
he brought them. We went through, and I said, "But this is absolutely fine. This works. All you
mm,
need is a
mm.
phone where you can make a phone call, and you
Yeah,
can internet, and
yeah,
the educational games, and there are also some fun games. You don't need anything fancy." And his
yeah.
face fell, and I knew what he was thinking, right? He was thinking, my friends have
Mm,
these fancy
yeah.
phones with the iPhone Pro X, whatever things they have
Yeah,
out.
yeah, correct, correct. Peer pressure.
Yeah, so it's really challenging.
So one thing about iPhone, the handphone is better be careful, because he they will spend a lot of time on the phone doing other thing other than useful thing, and they get addicted. I have parents complaining to me about their children. You know, my students. Hey, you know, my child is spending too much time on the phone and so on. You know, I asked me to counsel the child, and it's really phone is a double-edged sword. You must use it productively to help your study, but it can become a burden. You know, if you're addicted to other things, you know, and not only I mean, you see adults even walking on the road, they're on the phone. You know, and this is hazard. You know, they can get into accident and so on. So yeah, so that's the issue we are facing. So that's why I say, as a child, they are facing a lot of issues, technology, study, and that's why, as a tutor, when I talk to them, it's not just about the subject. Okay, I also need to gauge what's the problem and help them where possible. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you for that insight. Beyond talking to just, Balin's teachers at his school,
Mm,
I've always kind of wondered what it is that teachers see
mm,
that the parents don't. Because I think
mm,
in any setting where your child is, they engage a little bit differently. So
mm,
I'm always very, very interested in knowing kind of what the teachers know that I don't know,
mm,
and for
mm,
the teachers to know what I know that they do not know, to kind of bridge that gap in
mm.
understanding the child fully and giving them the
Yeah,
support that they
yeah,
need.
yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
What is
So that's why
what?
it's important to keep a communication line between the teacher and you. Yeah, because you see what happens. Sometimes parents, right, they antagonize the teachers in school, you know, and they become instead of working together, whenever the parents go to the teacher say, "Oh no, it's coming to complain again." So don't do that. Have a relationship with your teachers, because you're partner to help your same thing. You should be partner to your tutor, to help the child. Yeah. So that's the way I view things, and both as a tutor as well as a parent. I mean, I used to, when my kids are big now, but when they were young, I always keep a good communication line with the teacher, because from the teacher I can find a lot of things which I cannot find out as a parent.
Yep. Yep. I found that to be very true. I found that to be very true. I appreciate the parent-teacher meetings. And
Yeah.
every once in a while, just dropping that random email to the teacher to say,
correct. Yeah.
something is going on here. Have you noticed anything in school? And then I find out that, X has happened or Y happened, which, when he came home, he didn't tell me.
Yeah,
So you're absolutely right about that. Now, Sam, what is the thing that after all these years, what has kept you teaching? Why do you continue to do this?
Yeah. Okay, one of the things that I have is say, I believe that the youths are the future of our generation, right? For any country, we need to invest on the youths, because they will be the one who's going to take over, right? Running the country and so on. So therefore, as much as possible, where I can contribute, I would like to help to educate them. Okay? Because they need education as much as possible, especially in science and technology, right? And maths, okay? Because these are the foundation, like I say, of the country's technology, economic development. So where I can contribute, and which I think I still can, I would like to contribute, because there's nothing more, to me, is more fulfilling to see a child succeed. My own students, that they go to a college, eventually university, and some may even take the suggestions I give to them, like take up business. Some actually consult me. What should I study? Should I study business, computer? So yeah, you study business. Maybe you should add in a little bit of computer, because that's the future. Yeah, computer technology. Yeah. So I think to me is to see a person succeed. My own children succeed, so I'm very happy, very proud of that. And I also like to help other people succeed, other people's children succeed. Yeah. Okay.
And you
So that's
said
my motivation.
you said you have 3 daughters.
Yeah.
One is being a lawyer.
Yes. One is the eldest one is a neurologist, actually. She's a consultant now. And her twin, they are twin. Her twin is a lawyer.
Wow.
She is a criminal lawyer. Yeah. And the youngest one is a computer engineer, software engineer.
Wow.
And so
you've done well.
Yeah.
They sound like successful young women. That's amazing. Sam, I know you have some tools that you want to share with us.
Yes.
But before we get into that part, when you look at the future of learning, especially in the aftermath of the pandemic, where everything went online, after this debate between some people who are saying, actually, teaching online is a great thing, it's the future, and others who are saying, no, it should work in certain instances, but that interaction, especially in the formative years of a child, is
face to face
in terms of their social interaction, right? What is your sense of that?
Okay, yes. A lot of parents are still a bit have reservation about online learning. Now, my view is that actually online learning, there are a lot of advantages. You have a lot of tools you can use, like video. I have the tracking, I track my students' performance on the database, which I can't do if I have a face-to-face interaction. Now, face-to-face interaction, there are advantages, especially with young children like Bailey. You need to have face-to-face because sometimes on the online, they struggle to even tell you what do you need there. But for the more mature student, right, I think online is very effective because you can learn faster, you can learn more, and it's very convenient. It's at your time, my time, we're free, we can learn, right? But face-to-face, we must make sure we have a time and we're there. So my view is this: they complement each other. So in fact, I advise some of my students. I said, maybe it's good to have alternate. Maybe one lesson is face-to-face. The next lesson can be online. So we have the best of both worlds. Because increasingly, I tell you, more and more things will be online. And then as you do online, the child is also learning the technology, how to use Zoom, how to use recording, how to use Windows Journal, and so on. So we just need to evolve with technology because we can't run away. Much as handphone can be a nuisance in the sense that people get preoccupied, it is a technology that we need to use because you can't run away. Okay, payment, everything now with a handphone, you can do a lot of things. You can't even live without a handphone now.
Yeah.
Your appointments, everything is inside. And you lose a handphone, you're handicapped. Yeah. So that's my view about, and I really think that people should get more and more online, because online the resources reach, but of course you must know where to get. So for myself, I do a lot of online learning myself. I want to study something about the latest in physics or what, I just Google, and of course I know which are the good sites. The online is not just text, right? It's YouTube, multimedia. And I can have group discussion with people, even with professors and so on. And there are a lot of courses like EDX, Coursera. I actually attend those courses, and I learn a lot of new things.
I'm a fan of Coursera. Yeah.
Yeah, Coursera. Are you able to see the screen now?
I can see your screen.
Yeah. So this is a one-page kind of like write-up I have on the sort of the methodology that I use. Okay, I call the 2E, the encourage and the equip. And then here, PDE is the know-how. Now, encourage. So whenever I have a student, my own children, even the students, right? Firstly, I encourage them. Now, how do I encourage them? I encourage them to have interest in science and maths. Because if they don't have interest, you can't get them to learn. Firstly, you must encourage them. How? I show them examples of how, maths and science, right, are the basis of interesting subjects such as astronomy. For example, astronomy, you need to apply, physics, mathematics, calculating the orbits and so on, right? And how the origin of life, origin of the universe is physics, cosmology, and other things like natural phenomena such as earthquakes, which I think Bailey is very interested, right? What causes earthquakes?
Absolutely loves natural phenomena. Yeah.
A hurricane, So I have to encourage them and say, look, all these things, as we need to understand why do all these things happen, and they're not just random. There's always science behind it. So that's the encouraged part. Yeah. So a lot of them are very encouraged, but then now the next thing is we need to equip them, because, like I said, gaining knowledge is easy, but gaining know-how is difficult, because I need to equip them the know-how to solve problems, especially for maths and science. So I had this method I call the PDE method. Now, what does PDE stand for? It stands for principles, diagram. P is principle, diagrams, D is diagram, and equations. So this is the 3 steps that every student need to apply when they solve, especially maths or science problem. So I'll elaborate. What is P? P stands for principles. So when you look at the question, you ask yourself, what is this question testing me? Is it testing me on gravity? Is it testing me on pressure? Is it testing me on mole calculation? Or is it testing me on quadratic equation for maths? So that's the
quadratic equations.
Yeah.
Shiver.
Then the next thing is they need to use diagrams, right, to help them solve the problem. For example, especially for mathematics. So example, they need to use things like graphs, schematic diagrams. Okay, for physics especially, they need to use schematic diagrams. They need to use flow charts sometimes. Yeah. Basically, why? Is to simplify the problems. Because sometimes, right, the problem comes in the paragraph, they describe to you the problem. You need to simplify the problem so that you can formulate the solution. For example, I have this graph here. So if you are given an equation, right, the teacher said, this is the equation, okay? Fx equals to x squared minus 2x plus 3. Solve the equation. That's just that's the question. Solve the equation. How to do that? Now there are 2 ways to do that. One of the easiest way is to use graphs. So what do? You plot this graph. Okay, the blue color is the graph. So the solution is, where's the solution? the solution is this 2 point where the graph cuts the x-axis. That's the solution. Okay, so that's why the part about using diagram will help you. You know, students get worried. You know, what is this equation? How to solve? You need plot, right? Basically, it's saying x, y. Basically, they are asked to. Okay, maybe I should just insert a text here. Yeah, they should. The equation usually is where is my text? Yeah, this line here, right? Where this curve cuts the line is where this function becomes 0. So they just need to pick up this point, and that's the solution. Now, there's another way to solve it, and that is the last part, which is E. E is using equation. So you can solve this same question using this set of equation, which is horrifying. Okay, but all the students in secondary, grade 7, grade 8, right? American system, they are taught how to use these equations to solve the
that's 8, 12, 13, 14, yep.
Yeah, grade 7, grade 8. So you see, that's why these are skill, know-how that the students need to acquire. They must know how to use a graph to solve the equation, as well as to use the equation to solve the problem. So this is the point a lot of students have problem. They get freeze out when they say, oh, how to solve this, you know. So as a tutor, as a teacher, I have this methodology which will help them to solve not just maths, even for science, physics, chemistry. Yeah. Whereas the biology is more of know-how, okay? But physics and chemistry and mathematics is a lot of know-how, whereas biology is a lot of knowledge. Yeah. So this is the thing that I like to share. This is when I teach a student, I have the 2E and the PDE. Okay.
I really like encourage being the first thing, because I find that confidence has such a huge role to play in how well or poorly a child learns. If they're not encouraged and self-esteem is just down, especially if they don't feel like they enjoy the subject or know the subject.
Correct.
They just shut down. There's no way to teach. So encourage. I really like that you have to encourage.
Yes. You need to encourage it. And especially sometimes the subject is a bit difficult. You need to encourage and say, no, it's not so difficult. You give it a try, you know. And they may try first time, and a lot of them just give up. Say, no, you try second time, third time, and you will succeed. And when they succeed, they get more motivated. Yeah. So a lot of teachers say, no, you better drop the subject. That is the worst thing to do.
Yes. No.
So this is the approach. I mean, to me, I have a system. Yeah. And then the students will not be confused, you see, because if I go there, I say just learn, you know, they don't know where to start. So all my students, they know where I'm coming from, they know what's expected, and they know that they need to master all this skill. Yeah, so at least I give them a target. I say, this is the target. You must learn this method. And every time I go there, I say, to do this, right, they need to have a proper mathematical set. They have to have a curve to plot the curve. I tell you, a lot of students don't even have a proper mathematical set. I said, if you don't have a proper mathematical set, how you can take exam? They don't have a protractor, they don't have a set square, they don't have compasses. I said, look, you're going to take O-level next 2 months, you know, from now, and you don't have this. See, these are basic hygiene factors they don't even have, you know. So as a parent, I told the parents that you must get this for them. Otherwise, they're going to suffer. It's like going to a war without bullets, you know. Can you imagine? Yeah. So that's how I make learning fun, realistic, and that's my approach.
And practical. Yeah. So Stan, before we close, there have been a few key takeaways, and the one I want to come back to is around the hygiene factors.
Yes.
So parents and caregivers with some really solid tools. I'm going to throw out some that I heard from you in terms of how you help your child grow and how you help your child learn. So you've talked about encouraging them. You've talked about equipping them with the necessary knowledge. You've talked about making sure that they are, first of all, that you as the parent or the caregiver are fully engaged with them physically, emotionally, and otherwise. So that every time when they're going to engage learning, they're coming ready. right?
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
talked about parents in particular having a good, transparent relationship and effective dialogues with teachers and
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
just having a general understanding of what's going on with their child's social
Mm,
life at
yeah,
school.
correct. You,
Anything I've missed in terms of
the
hygiene?
parents must take an interest in the child. You see, if you as a parent, if you take an interest in the child's education, then the children say, hey, I have a partner here, it's with me. But a lot of parents just don't have the time, and the child say, since my parents are not interested in my study, why should I be interested? It's the thing, it's like, are you with me? If somebody is with me, walking with me, it's more fun, isn't it? But when you ask a child to walk alone, it's quite intimidating.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the point is that to put everything short, just be with your child in the journey, in the education journey. It's a long journey because they are from grade school, right, all the way to high school. K, they call K to 12, right? Okay, K1 to 12. It's 12 years, and after that, you go to college another 4 years. It's a long journey.
it
So
is.
as parents, you have to be with them all the way. Okay.
When you put it
So.
that way, it's really good context, right? When you stand back and you say, actually,
Mm,
between the ages of 6 and for those who go to university up until
yeah.
perhaps 22, you're
Mm,
in school. That
mm,
is a long time. That's such a
mm,
huge chunk of their lives.
mm,
So it's
mm,
so important that we remain engaged and dialed in. And
mm,
and and I think, you're absolutely right. There have been times when, for me, I've slipped a bit into the mode of this falls to the teacher while
mm.
I can pick this up on this end. But what you're saying is
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
it needs to be seamless all the way through. The teacher
Yes.
may be in the classroom, but
Yeah.
we need to be engaged in the classroom, albeit from a distance.
Yeah. See, the teachers are with them only for that time, the duration, maybe one year,
Hmm.
2 years.
Hmm.
But who is the long-term partner? It's a parent. Okay.
Yeah,
So in any journey, you need a long-term partner, right? Be it spouse. So as a child, who is my partner in my educational journey?
yeah. It's a
So
parent.
the natural answer is the parent, right? If you're a parent, you're not working with them, who's working with them? Okay. Yeah. The
That
teachers
is
are only with them for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe. So that's very important.
that is a poignant question, and I think it's an excellent one to end a chat on.
Yeah.
If you're not walking with your child on this journey,
Then who
who
is?
is?
Yeah. It's a very simple question, right?
And the answer can be scary, right? Because on the one hand, if it's somebody else, you don't know what
Mm.
they're teaching your child.
Yeah. One is
If
teach, one they
it's
are
no
learning from.
one, yeah,
Mm.
if it's no one, then your child is alone on this journey.
Yeah.
So it's a question that requires some thought, but actually, I
Yeah.
think the answer is in the question.
Yeah, it's very clear, right? Yeah, yeah. And you
Wonderful.
must enjoy the journey with your child. Some parents say, your school, I don't want to be. You must enjoy. If you see getting involved in your children's education is a chore, then the child won't be motivated. You must enjoy talking to children about their education. Then they will say, hey, my mom and my dad is so interested. Yeah, I'll be interested. But even dad and mom is not so keen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
they
but
won't be
but I
so
have to
motivated.
say, I don't know how other parents feel,
Mm,
but when I have to sit down and do math homework with Balin,
mm.
I cannot tell you that I'm terribly enthusiastic.
Yeah,
But when he comes home, we're talking about science, we're talking about natural law, and we're talking about the stories he's reading, the poetry he's writing. Then my
yeah, yeah, oh,
light up.
yeah,
So we're parents, but I think we're still human beings in this journey. Some things
yeah.
up, other things will just not. And so
Mm.
it's about finding that balance where
Yes.
and the reason why, Sam, I mean, I
Mm,
brought you on board was because I'm just not good at the math stuff, right? I needed to
mm.
find someone who is.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
talk
yeah,
all day about the creative stuff, the humanity, the social studies, and I'm there. But
yeah,
then
yeah.
also, I think a good message to parents on the areas in which you don't have the strength,
You get
find
help.
somebody who does and
Yes.
engage them and keep the child encouraged.
Correct, correct. Yes, right. Yeah, you're not expected to be an expert in all areas. So you need whatever help, you get whatever help.
Yeah,
Okay? Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sam, thank you so much.
Yes.
So much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate the time, and
Yeah.
more so the work that you've been doing with Bailey, and I'm sure the other parents of kids who work with you are as appreciative. So again,
Okay.
it was a pleasure for me to do this. I hope you had as
Yes.
much fun as I did. As a video.
Yes. Yeah. Just send me the link to the video when it's done.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I'll do that. Thank you,
Okay.
Sam.
Thank you. Have a good night. Yeah.
You
Okay.
too.
Yeah. Bye bye. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Thank you for watching. To support Mama Talk Talk, share this episode, subscribe to our channel by hitting the button in the lower right hand corner, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until we meet again, stay well.